Okay, guys, as you know, good morning. It's Friday. It's Firearms Friday. We're going to cover a firearms story. This morning, we're going to be talking about the judge that ruled that illegal immigrants have Second Amendment rights. And wow, there's a lot to talk about there. Also, I hope you're all tracking on the absolute catastrophe where criminal aliens just straight rushed the border last night. So, we're not going to be covering any DGUs this morning. We've got some more important stuff to cover. Uh, and oh, there he is. I was about to say, we'll have Cameron coming on in just a minute, but as you know, live is hard mode. But we'll be right with you. Oh well, that just kind of stopped right where it did. I was that I understand what happened now. So there are actually two Firearms Friday stingers. There's that one that's just the robot, and there's the one that I usually run on a Firearms Friday that has the music interlude that continues to play afterward. Whoops, but no big deal. So let me go ahead and bring in our guest, a blast from the past. Y'all haven't seen him in a hot damn minute. And Cameron, can you move your camera to your left? Yeah, be there. That's much better. How you doing, sunshine?
I'm Wyatt, I'm rolling.
Well, we
And
got us Steve, Pitt, Danny, Mr. C. That's Steve Rodemeyer and El Sergeant Mayor all saying good morning. And Pitt Danny is making fun of your body.
that's fair. That's
It
fair.
is.
It's
It is.
Yeah, it's not the age of the car, it's the miles on the equipment. And
I'm going to go ahead and throw on the chat overlay for you as well so that you can see the chats coming through. And Sergeant Major notices that you got a haircut, but that's actually old news. He just hadn't seen you in a long damn time.
I've actually had a couple of haircuts since the last time. So yeah.
Oh, and Pitt Danny clarifies. No, he said to move it. He likes to move it, move it. He likes to move it.
If you have children of a certain age, you've heard the Lemur song so many times. It is
I had drill sergeants that had children of a certain age. I have marched to the Lemur song.
oh,
it's a great marching cadence.
I can imagine. I can imagine.
200 soldiers stomping in rhythm and shouting, I like to move it, move it.
Yes. Should draw your eyebrows? Anyhow. So,
Oh, Mario's in rare form already. And he better be since he bitched out on us this morning. He was supposed to join us for the show today. Bitch.
I see the chats in the restream, but I see where you have the overlay and I don't see any chats popping up there. So if Mario is saying something that he thinks is clever, I'm not seeing it. Well, when you've been pudgy for long enough, your body just gets used to it. And then when you combine that with some alcohol consumption and some tobacco consumption, like suddenly you go healthy, it kind of goes, what are you doing? But we don't know how to deal with this. So yeah.
So you're going to kick us off this morning. You said you wanted to set the table. I have your article pulled up here.
Oh, well,
it's not
excellent.
Going to be quite as convenient as if you were in studio with your own scroll wheel, but I will do my best to keep up or not fall behind.
We can do that. And then the sons of bitches now want me to join Fox News to enter a valid email address and all that. Man, why did it let me do this? Why did it let me do this on my phone, but it wouldn't let me do it?
I got a present for you. I'm sending you over
the link. Yeah, thanks, buddy. That's
well. Okay, let me try that again. That was supposed to be the link to the web archive version of it, so you don't have to worry about what. Okay, so the reason we use web archive, there's two reasons. Now, I'm not as worried about it with Fox News, but one of the reasons we use it generally is to starve shitburger outlets of clicks and views. But when we use it, it not only does that. Use this link, Cameron.
I'm good. I've got it figured out. It was just a for better or worse, I had a Fox News account. I just had to verify that I was me because it's been so long since I logged into it. Because Fox News is not your friend.
Correct. But the other reason we use the web archive is it runs around paywalls. If you get to an article that you want to read and they try to hit you with a paywall, archive it, put it on the web archive, and the web archive will take a snapshot of the article minus the paywall, and Bob's your fucking uncle.
Right. Okay. So this is not an especially long article.
My mother says hi.
Oh, yay. I love you, Ma. Everybody loves your mom. Like, it's just, it's a fact. Like, the sun rises in the east. The sky is blue on a clear day. And is that me?
It's what you.
Oh.
If you're hearing audio in your headphones, then
yeah, it's more Fox News. Look, we're just going to do this, okay? Judge rules illegal immigrants have gun rights protected by the Second Amendment. A federal judge in Illinois has found that the Constitution protects the gun rights of non-citizens who entered the United States illegally. U.S. District Judge Sharon Johnson Coleman on Friday ruled that a federal prohibition on illegal immigrants owning firearms is unconstitutional as applied to the defendant Heribito Cabral Flores. The court found that while the federal ban is facially constitutional, there is no historical tradition of firearm regulation that permits the government to deprive a non-citizen who has never been convicted of a violent crime from exercising his Second Amendment rights. The non-citizen possession statute violates the Second Amendment as applied to Flores, the judge wrote. Thus, the court grants Flores' motion to dismiss. Coleman, a President Obama appointee, cited the landmark Supreme Court decision in New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin, which established a new standard to determine whether a law violates the Second Amendment. Since Bruin, a multitude of federal and state gun control measures have been challenged in courts with mixed results. I'm not going to go any further than that. That pretty well sets it up. So basically, here's the crux of the question. This is why you've seen this on Twitter, and you've seen, it's been interesting on right-wing social media. But here's the question, okay? What in the Captain Picard riding on a Harley-Davidson motorcycle, whipped cream flavored Blue Falcon puck is an illegal immigrant doing with more rights than me? Is that fair? Can everybody agree that that's kind of the question we're all asking, no matter where you come down on this? And that's why this is such a divisive issue. Now, I'm actually going to tell you what my opinion on this whole thing is, and if it's good or bad or whatever, if there's kind of a mixed bag.
God, I hope so. That's kind of what we do here.
But in all seriousness, like, that is kind of the question. And while I think that this is fertile ground for Second Amendment and what it means to have natural God-given rights as opposed to just a piece of paper that says a thing, seriously, illegals have more rights than me? Because for most people, if you commit a crime and you possess a gun while you commit that crime, in most cases, that gun is going to be considered an aggravating factor and can take a misdemeanor and turn it into a felony, and can take a felony and turn it into a bucket of felonies. But an illegal immigrant, something that, Chris, I know you would describe as a foreign invader,
Hostile foreign invader.
Yeah. But somebody you would describe as a hostile foreign invader, whatever, but an illegal immigrant, that gun is not an aggravating factor for them. Well, that's kind of bullshit. I mean, am I wrong?
A hostile foreign invader, like the ones that actually tore down razor wire and overran National Guard in Texas yesterday. I want you guys, while we're having this conversation, to take a quick look at this photograph of these hostile foreign invaders tearing down, overwhelming, attacking U.S. border, tearing down the fencing there and smashing through. And I want you to just take a moment and look at all the poor women and children.
Yeah.
You see all these poor, hungry women and children? Oh, no. What you see is a horde of military-aged males. What you see is an invading force. Right? The Chinese had a plan fighting Russia where they would just send, 1 million Chinese they'd send 10,000 Chinese to the border to surrender every day.
Won every battle, but lost the war.
Eventually, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Sergeant Major says one Claymore stops that. And honestly, while I agree entirely, just one good burst stops that. Right?
Whoa.
You don't have to kill everybody coming across the border like this. If you just blast through a few of them, all of a sudden you'll see these hordes dry up fast. They'll dry up real fast. So before I really stake my position on the Second Amendment argument here, go ahead, Cameron. What is your actual opinion?
Well, the United States is unique in many aspects, and one of the ways that it's unique is that it was founded inherently on philosophical principles. Most nation states, whatever, were outgrowth of tribalism and had basically a model along the lines of either might makes right, you can conquer the kingdom, you can own it, or some kind of divine succession. Well, the king's oldest son and the king's oldest son, whatever. The United States was founded on philosophy, that there are these things called natural rights granted to you by God, and that the reason why men would voluntarily give the government a monopoly on violence was so that the government could ensure your rights. It wasn't so that the government could have power. It was so that the government could stay out of the way and allow you to exercise your own power, which the founders decided to codify with life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. If you have natural rights, if they are endowed to you by God, then the piece of paper that is the Constitution doesn't really mean anything. And obviously it means a lot, but it doesn't really mean anything. All it does is spell out the rights that should already be self-evident to everybody involved. There were people that drafted the Constitution that did not think that the Bill of Rights was necessary. They felt as though the Constitution was very clear. Hey, the government needs to have the smallest amount of power possible to do its job so that you can live your life and have people leave you the hell alone. And to that end, we have the Second Amendment. And the Second Amendment is meant to allow you to basically to arm yourself. If we ever invent ray guns, the Second Amendment will apply to ray guns. For example, it's a timeless, it doesn't matter the hardware that's being used. You could be talking about swords or brass knuckles or firearms, whatever, the Second Amendment applies to it. Sometimes you gotta have a weapon. And to that end, and I've said before on this show, arm the world. No, literally, arm the world. Arm everybody. You'd be shocked at how quickly problems would sort themselves out if suddenly one group of people could encounter resistance from another group of people. I don't want to go down the Ukraine rabbit hole, but one reason why Ukraine has been in a stalemate for so long, and yes, Ukraine is in a stalemate. Ukraine is not winning the fucking war. Don't kid yourself. One reason why Ukraine has been in a stalemate for so long is because the Ukrainians are armed. And man, give a group of pissed off moms and dads weapons and let them defend their own village where they want to raise their children. And I promise you've got a fighting force. And the United States recognized that from its inception, founded on philosophy, as I said. So I don't have a problem with an illegal having a firearm. I have a problem with an illegal being an illegal. But another thing I've said on this show is that if you have two drug dealers and drug dealer A attempts to rob drug dealer B and gets shot and killed while committing that robbery, I don't think the second drug dealer should catch a felony murder charge, because your right to life doesn't go away just because you're a piece of shit. So that's where I come down on it. Now, is this a big, giant win for the Second Amendment? No. Is this a slap in the face? Yeah. But do I have a problem with the illegals having guns? I mean, no. That's one of those things where like the left will do this, be like, oh yeah, well, how would you feel if black people had guns? I'd feel great. Are you kidding? I say arm the ghetto. The ghetto will clean itself up if the ghetto is armed. And it's funny that you stick a bunch of people together. They're not allowed to own firearms for a bunch of reasons. And then they're a target-rich environment by the people that are willing to break that rule. So that's where I'm at on it. I think both sides of the debate here are taking things too far. Could this be used to overturn a whole bunch of gun legislation? I don't think so. The judge was very careful to say that, oh, well, federal bans are still facially constitutional. She included that in her language on purpose. Like this was, I hate to say it, but I think this was a throwaway. But on the surface, nah, man, I think Jeffrey Epstein had the right to not get suicided in his cell before his trial. He was a total piece of shit. But hey, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. If you don't have life, you can't have liberty. If you don't have liberty, you can't pursue happiness. So, okay. So you crossed a border illegally, and now you're allowed to not defend yourself anymore? Now, that's accepting the people that tore down the razor wire, of course. I would have opened fire on those because you're tearing down fucking razor wire. But I think you and the audience are intelligent enough to see the distinction. I am done filibustering, Chris. Please, you and I deliberately didn't discuss this before the show, so please.
So, to correctly understand our natural rights, it must be understood that, like Cameron mentioned, the country was founded on very important and clear philosophical grounds. Those including that there is a creator. Which is not to say that we are philosophically identifying the transcendental locus of faith as the Christian God identity, but more importantly, that there is something that occupies that metaphysical location Ergo, the atheist is wrong to say that there is not. And the reason that that's important philosophically to the founding of the country is that, excuse me, is that it recognizes the idea that the individual has divine sovereignty, that the individual has actual value, some spark of real, substantial, metaphysical worth. It is why the core basis of our legal system begins with the idea that you are innocent until proven guilty. And that's a very important piece. Now, with that comes the idea, and what we accept to be legal fact, that your individual rights, like the big five from the First Amendment: speech, press, assembly, faith, and the right to petition the government. The Second Amendment, which is grounded theoretically in your right to self-defense and your right to defend yourself against a tyrannical government, and the need to have a looming threat of defense to restrict the government from taking oppressive and tyrannical actions, right? Our rights are grounded in the fact that we are human, that the being of a human entails the inclusion of those individual rights. So I would not say that the judge is wrong to suggest that everyone has the Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms, which is to say they have the right to keep and bear arms, and the Second Amendment is an injunction against the government to interfere with that right by infringing on it with any regulation, legislation at all. So the question that remains there, when you're talking about whether or not the hostile foreign invader can be armed, it is this simple. What you were talking about is an enemy combatant. Whether or not they are armed is irrelevant to their status as a hostile foreign entity. The only correct answer is the elimination or ejection of that entity from the secure and sovereign border.
Well, okay then. So I'm going to go out on, I took a little bit of a limb here and say, on the broader point, we agree. Like, no, you just kind of have the right to life. And that means you have the right to arm yourself to defend your life. Whether or not you enter a country illegally is a separate issue. There is the other side of it, though. Like I saw Xander in the comments saying a judge doing her job the right way. I think that's only technically correct. I'm willing to read an extra layer of subtext into this and say it's a slap in the face. Like, oh, I'm gonna use Bruin, and I'm gonna use Bruin to go boom, boom on one of the biggest hot button issues in our society. Like that seems like some commie shit right there. That seems like the kind of thing that the left would intellectually enjoy very, very much.
Well, and Xander also quite rightly asked this question, and I haven't had a chance to go back and address it yet. He says, what is an illegal alien? And I'll come back to that question in just a second. Entering the country illegally is a civil issue, not criminal. That's why Texas is currently trying to make it a Class B misdemeanor. So what crime did they commit? And then before I go back and answer that, down here, he says, exactly, Chris. So the solution is for Congress to criminalize all non-authorized entry. Correct. And he also said she came to the right decision for the wrong reason. She's an activist and wanted to create a firestorm.
That's
also
very well put. Yeah.
But let me come back to the what is an illegal alien. So I've said it many times before. I've never liked the phrase illegal alien. That's why I say hostile foreign invader, etc. Or criminal alien is a more correct phrasing. Now, there are civil penalties. Excuse me. There are civil penalties assigned for illegal entry, and they're relatively small civil penalties: few $100 fine, 6 months in jail for crossing at an unauthorized point of entry. And Xander's right uh, about the need for Congress to criminalize all non-authorized entry. But the thing that you have to understand when you look at the situation that happened down here in Texas yesterday, right? Over 100 migrants break through razor wire, knock down guards as they illegally cross El Paso border in wild scene. We're not talking about onesies and twosies here. What we're talking about, forget the question of criminality. Crime is not the word you should be thinking about. The word is war. These countries are conducting acts of war. They are literally emptying their prisons in Venezuela and other similar communist countries. And then those people are swarming through Mexico, where they're getting mixed up with terrorists. And I don't mean, oh, that's a Muslim, you better check his shoes for fuses. I mean, men who are card carrying members of legitimized and recognized terrorist organizations, right? Under Donald Trump, 11 such men were apprehended in illegal border crossings while Donald Trump was president. Since Joe Biden took office, that number has jumped up to almost 400. And that's just the ones that they've actually caught.
Yeah. 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 Also,
there have been more illegal border crossings this year than in the 12 years of Obama and Trump combined. And also a dramatic increase in the number of terrorists arrested at the border. So it is incorrect to think of this as a crime. It is correct to think of it as a border invasion. This is an attack. This is a military action being conducted against the United States. Even if you cannot identify the particular offender in the case of such a military action, the correct answer is to secure that land. All war is won and concluded by boots holding ground and using force to retain that position.
So
we are refusing, because we are refusing to do that at our border, we are allowing the enemy to do exactly that.
So
now go ahead. Sorry.
No, so Xander actually touched on something that I was going to point out. But yeah, okay, it starts out as a civil offense, but if you ignore a civil summons, now it's a criminal offense.
Yes.
And none of these guys show up for their immigration hearings, which puts them in contempt of court, which is a crime.
The government giving them cell phones with GPS locators to track their location. They just hold on to that phone and use it for free for the 5 or 6 years leading up to their court case, and then ditch the fucking thing and move to another state.
Right. So is crossing the border itself illegal? And okay, no. But Steve says, would you jump a fence? That's trespassing. I hear that, but as it stands, no, it's a civil penalty. But as soon as you ignore a court directive, that's a crime. It's always a crime to ignore what the court tells you to do. You can think that's right or wrong, but
real quick, Steve points out they came across a fence. That's trespassing at a minimum, and one might dismiss that as kind of being a tongue-in-cheek joke. But the fact is that a lot of the unauthorized crossing does happen on private property, and that's a big deal. You've got farmers and ranchers in Texas who are finding rape trees on their property. and cartels are setting up frickin' watch posts on both sides of the border, one side of which is on the farmer's private property, and the local cops don't like the farmer killing the drug dealers because it's bad for Democrat business.
Yeah, and it's funny because I suspect that if you just turned those farmers loose, that could actually solve a lot of the border problem. If you cross over there, you might end up with a 308 surprise from 100 yards out. That's that's what you call a deterrent. There's a fantastic joke from Rick and Morty where Rick actually kills a member of the White House security team. And says, well, why'd you kill him? Why did you just knock him out? And Rick says, knocked him out. That's not a deterrent. I killed him because that's a deterrent. Now the rest of you won't touch me. But it's true. It's true. Why did they tear down the razor wire and come across? Because there's no real penalty for not.
Right. There's no risk and massive reward. They're basically guaranteed a 5-star hotel and a meal chit in New York if they can just get there.
Yeah. So just to kind of sum up,
how long before a BLM crowd goes and burns down a 5-star hotel because that should have been our handout?
We're over time, and you wanna throw juicy troll bait at me. But no, just to sum up, your rights are natural.
I had bacon bits and I turned them into titty sprinkles.
Right. Your rights are natural. Okay, that you have them no matter what some piece of paper says. That includes, I'm 100% comfortable with non-citizens actually having those rights. But as Alex pointed out, this is the right decision arrived at for the wrong reasons in an attempt to cause a firestorm. Like, this is a big double finger Eminem style fuck you. But when you really drill down into it, I love Twitter. I love the dirt of Twitter. I'm whatever, judge me all you want, but it is what it is. But there's been a lot of libertarian and conservative back and forth where people are arguing with each other, like, oh, this is a massive win for the Second Amendment, or this is a terrible precedent set for our country. And I think both of those positions are wrong. I think this is a very narrowly tailored decision that was an insult. And it appears to have worked because now, like, Cat Turd and the Quartering and the redheaded libertarian are all arguing with each other over whether or not this was a good decision. And of course, Maj Toure has jumped into the fray, and all of the other kind of, pro Second Amendment leaders. And in reality, like, guys, this isn't going to change much. I wish that it would. I wish to God that this was the precedent that was like, oh, well, okay, fine. It's time to start repealing the NFA, which I am down with.
Yeah,
but that's
all gun laws are an offense to the Constitution and to America.
Well, and something that Maj Toure says a lot is that all gun control is racist, and he's correct. Gun control was incepted, and I'm going to be offensive as I say this, but it is the correct way to interpret it. But gun control was incepted as a way to keep those darkies from getting too uppity once they started having their rights recognized. Like, right. That is literally where gun control started in this country. You want to get
Democrats were terrified that the Negroes would pick up rifles.
Yeah. Yeah, so you want to get rid of systemic racism? Fine. Start by getting rid of gun laws, because it's funny how it seems to target certain groups of people much more effectively than others. So, but I think this is not the fight for us to have. I don't mind our side of the aisle having conflict. It breeds an environment where the better idea has to work hard to come to the top of the pile. But this is not the fight to have. It's not going to change anything. It doesn't mean anything. There are other things that we could look at. Texas has a law on its books where if you are 5 years removed from your felony, you can have a gun in your home for self-defense. Now, you and I have talked about this privately. That should be the beginning, not the end. But
Right.
but that should be the beginning. What, you got convicted of aggravated assault in 1988, so you're now here in 2024 not allowed to have a shotgun in your own home? What if you live in Alaska where sometimes grizzly bears walk down Main Street? What, you're just not allowed to carry? You just get eaten by a grizzly bear?
In fairness, if you're dealing with a grizzly, you're going to want a whole lot of shotgun for that. Maybe that is not one for your 12 gauge bird shot, my man. But
no, that's just enough to piss it off. You give it incentive to start ripping your arms off. And then Xander sums it up really well with, I should be able to carry a gun anywhere in the world. Screw their gun laws. Amen and amen. So say we all.
Amen indeed. All right. Well, I'm going to have to put a pen in it there because I got to get my ass to the VA and get my ears cleaned out. Whew.
I also have other things that I need to do.
All right. Well, guys, thanks for watching this morning. I'll try to drag Cameron's ass off of work every now and then and get him back on the show again in the future because we love having him on. Thanks for joining us this morning, brother. I appreciate you taking the time. I know this was a topic you particularly wanted to cover, and I'm glad to have had you for it.
Man, it's good to be here. And look, man, I work 3 jobs. If you want to work one of them for me, I'll let you.
No, yeah, I'd be great. I'd be glad to. What's the pay?
Yeah, so you're going to keep the money. Yeah, that's
exactly
right.
All right, y'all. Be safe out there. We love you, and I'll see you on Monday.